So I think that there's sort of this misconception that when you get into spirituality, or let's say, for instance, you're a spiritual coach, that from that place on, you just have no problems, or you never get triggered, or nothing ever worries you or bothers you. And this couldn't be further from the truth. But what I will say is that after a spiritual awakening, or after you embark on your spiritual journey, your mindset shifts. And today I want to share with you guys 3 mindset shifts that I've had as a spiritual coach and how this has dramatically transformed my life. Disclaimer, it does not mean I'm immune to problems. I just want to make that really clear. I also know that everyone's spiritual journey and the catalyst for their awakening can be very different across the board. So for those of you who have gone through an awakening, I mean, you're watching this video, so most likely you have, comment down below. Share your story. What did you go through? What happened to you? Because I think that a lot of people can really relate to that. And I'm really curious as a spiritual coach to find out, what is your catalyst? What brought you here? With that being said, we do have a private Facebook group for anyone who's interested in spirituality, self-love, conscious manifestation. I know that for a lot of spiritual beings, loneliness can be a huge problem on the path, and being able to connect with like-minded people can really help us as we're navigating our journey. So if you guys are interested in joining that free Facebook group, the information will be down below in the description box. But let's jump into today's video. First mindset shift that I had after my spiritual awakening, and there were multiple catalysts, but I would say that probably 3 or 4 years ago, there was a major shift. So I learned about the law of attraction. I learned about manifestation. I've known about that for about 15 years, but I didn't have a spiritual awakening until a couple years ago, 3 to 4 years ago. And after that, there was a huge shift. And the first shift was how much power my mind had over me. So before my awakening, I truly believed that all of these thoughts running in my mind all the time were me, was the true me. And it wasn't until my awakening that I started to separate my true self from my ego. And the ego is the thoughts in the head. The ego is the personality. And the thing is this, there is a purpose for the ego, right? And we can utilize it in our everyday lives, but if we are consumed by our ego, if we are consumed by our mind, if we are consumed by our thoughts, and we truly believe that our thoughts have more power over us, we are always going to suffer. And so the mindset shift that I had was I started to separate myself from my mind, meaning that I gave my mind so much less power. So this doesn't mean that as a spiritual coach, I don't still get flooded with negative thoughts. I don't still get flooded with insecurities, but I can separate myself from those thoughts and those insecurities, and I can say, this isn't the true me. Because these are often thoughts that we've carried from a really young age. So when we have traumatic experiences, when we have painful experiences, when we're bullied, when we're hurt, when we're disappointed, right? We start to create stories about the world, and we start to create stories about ourselves, and being able to disengage from those stories and understand that those stories aren't true, those stories aren't real. So anything that doesn't reside in love, I do not deem as true. And so this really was one of the biggest mindset shifts that allowed me to bring way more peace into my life. So the second mindset shift that I had was I stopped blaming others. Now, am I perfect? No. There are times where, yes, I'll fall into a low vibrational state and play the blame game, but for the most part, I understand that we as spiritual beings have come into this physical experience for a short amount of time. And we have so much more power than we realize. Before we wake up, we think that we are a victim. We think that everyone around us has this power or this control over us and control over what's happening in our environment, right? Many people blame their boss because they don't like the money that they make, or they blame their significant other because they're not happy, right? These are things that we are in control of. But when we give our power to other people in that sense, we lose our own. This was the second mindset shift that I made, is I stopped blaming the world. So if I didn't like something, I didn't blame the outer world, because when you blame the outer world, you have no power, right? When you start to take accountability for your life and how you show up in your life and what you want to create in your life, then you can't be spending your time and energy fixated on he did this, she did this, no, he did that, no, she did that. Right? Because you end up wasting your own energy and your own power in that process. So the third mindset shift that I had was I really started to realize that my happiness was not outside of myself. So prior to my awakening, I always believed that my happiness was in a relationship or a friendship, or it was in my job or career. And so I was always searching for something outside of myself. And then oftentimes when I would actually get what I thought I wanted, I still wasn't happy. And that would really mess up my mind a lot, because I would get very fixated. Okay, this is the thing that I want. And then I would go after this thing. I would attain this thing. Maybe it would give me happiness, but for a very short period of time, until my mind started fixating on the next thing that I needed to be happy. And so the mindset shift that I had after my spiritual awakening is that your happiness, everyone's happiness, is always within. You know, if we think our happiness is outside of ourselves, then we're always going to be searching. And so our happiness is really based on how we judge our thoughts, how we judge our situation. So, you know, you can have two people with the exact same situation in the exact same environment. One is happy, one is unhappy. Why? It's not the external environment, it's how they choose to perceive something. So our happiness is always based on our perception and how we judge our thoughts. And so what's amazing about this is that we get to control our happiness. So many people think, you know, happiness is out of their reach. Happiness is here right now. It's present for you at any moment in time. But if you're listening to your mind that's telling you that I can't be happy until I make $10,000, until I make $500,000, until I make $10 million, right? Then yeah, you're going to be unhappy because you're making that judgment and you're making that assumption. But regardless of our situations, regardless of our relationships, regardless of our outer, environment, we get to choose how we feel. We get to choose to be happy. And that was a huge mindset shift that, again, really allowed a lot more peace into my life. So I truly, truly hope that this video resonated with a lot of you guys today. If it did, be sure to give me a thumbs up, go down below, subscribe, hit the bell to get my notifications, and I will see you guys very soon. Take care.